The hunters return. My aunt will be down presently, Mr. Nuttall, said a self-possessed young lady of 15, in the meantime you must put up with me. Frompton Nuttall endeavored to say the correct something. Privately he doubted whether formal visits to total strangers would help the nerve cure which he was undergoing. I know how it will be, his sister had said when he was preparing to migrate to this rural retreat, you will bury yourself down there and not speak to a soul, and your nerves will be worse than ever from moping. I shall just give you letters of introduction to all the people I know there. Some were quite nice. Do you know many of the people round here? Asked the niece. Hardly a soul, said Frompton. My sister stayed at the rectory 4 years ago, and she gave me letters of introduction to some people here. Then you know nothing about my aunt. Only her name and address, admitted the caller. He was wondering whether Mrs. Sapleton was married or widowed. The room suggested masculine habitation. Her great tragedy happened 3 years ago. You may wonder why we keep that window open on an October afternoon, said the niece, indicating a French window that opened onto a lawn. It is warm for this time of year, said Frompton, but is it related to the tragedy? Out through that window, 3 years ago her husband and her 2 brothers went off for their day's shooting. They never came back. In crossing the moor they were engulfed in a bog. It had been that dreadful wet summer, and places that were safe gave way suddenly. Their bodies were never recovered. Poor aunt always thinks they will come back someday, they and the little brown spaniel that was lost with them, and walk in at that window just as they used to do. That is why the window is kept open every evening. Poor dear aunt, she has often told me how they went out, her husband with his white waterproof coat over his arm, and Ronnie, her youngest brother, singing. Sometimes on quiet evenings like this, I get a creepy feeling that they will all walk in through that window. She broke off with a shudder. It was a relief when the aunt bustled into the room. Don't mind the open window, said Mrs. Sapleton, my husband and brothers will be home directly. She rattled on cheerfully about the shooting and the scarcity of birds. To Frompton it was horrible. He made a desperate effort to turn to a less ghastly topic. He was conscious that his hostess was giving him only a fragment of her attention, her eyes straying past him to the open window and the lawn. The doctors ordered complete rest, no mental excitement, and minimal physical exercise, announced Frompton, deluded that strangers and chance acquaintances hunger for details of one's ailments. Then she suddenly brightened to attention, but not to what Frompton was saying. Here they are at last, she cried. Just in time for tea. Frompton shivered slightly and turned to the niece to convey comprehension. She was staring through the window with dazed horror in her eyes. Frompton swung around and looked in the same direction. 3 figures were walking across the lawn towards the window, all carried guns under their arms, and one was additionally burdened with a white coat hung over his shoulders. A brown spaniel kept close. Frompton grabbed at his stick and hat. The hall door, gravel drive, and front gate were dimly noted stages in his headlong retreat. Here we are, said the bearer of the white mackintosh, coming in through the window. Who was that who bolted as we came up? A Mr. Nuttall, said Mrs. Sapleton, could only talk about his illnesses, and dashed off without a word. You'd think he had seen a ghost. I expect it was the spaniel, said the niece calmly. He told me he had a horror of dogs. He was once hunted into a cemetery and had to spend the night in a new grave with wild dogs snarling and foaming just above him. Romance at short notice was her specialty.